fanning out to search. Alex Kossuth, Junzo Ogata, Annie Bascom, the Russian glaciologist Minskov, and Lydia Tarakanova. All missing. Tarakanova had been scheduled to leave that morning. The others had come to the campsite to see her off and to conduct the quarterly marine tests and download data from the remote-controlled drone. But they hadn't answered their scheduled base check at noon and couldn't be raised on either their suit's transceivers or their vehicle radios. Now, half of Trudeau Station was out searching. Inside the shelter, the transformer was humming, powered by the string of steadily grinding windmills mounted outside on hollow 12-foot posts. 2 collapsible workstations had been set up, taut canvas strung between telescoping legs. One was at desk height, an overturned utility crate serving as a chair. The other workstation was deployed like a night table, just enough off the quilted floor to allow a scientist access to a laptop computer and a sonometer while sitting comfortably on an airbed. A half-eaten foil packet of dehydrated berries lay nearby. No sign of menace or malfunction. Nothing amiss. Verneau was relieved, he realized, not to find the bloody aftermath of a marauding bear. Everything was in its characteristic state of neatness in Ogata's area, and in complete disarray in Annie Bascom's. The modesty curtain was drawn across more to hide her messiness than preserve her privacy. Alex Kossuth was halfway through one of his chess games, the board neatly laid out on his air mattress. Minskov's area looked unused, also not surprising. Something about the man was transient. Tarakanova's airbed was deflated, her sleep sack rolled up, her Arctic suit folded up, helmet on top. On the adjoining bed, atop the sleep sack, he found Junzo Ogata's PDA and scrolled through the project log. The entries appeared completely routine, recording their journey from Arctic Research Station Trudeau to the fieldwork site, their cautious methodology in the demanding polar environment, the dull, exacting procedures of well-trained and overeducated minds accruing details, amassing data. Everything about the work was predictable, except the setting. He reached the last entry, which noted their sleep cycle and set out the morning's agenda. Calculations appeared sidebarred in a yellow window, marginalia that would eventually be incorporated into the database and formal report. Water salinity, upwellings, readings on the earth tide gravimeter, and the automated tide gauge. Verneau cocked his head to read a notation in the awkward scrawl of a stylus on the tablet's screen. Ignis fatuus. He didn't recognize the term, or the handwriting. Not Ogata's neat geometric print. Kossuth's? Verneau cursed again. 4 scientists could not simply disappear in the middle of this wasteland. The radio in the hut was on and functioning. The equipment was recording its readings. Could this be a practical joke? Tonight was the annual sundown party, marking the final sunset, such as it was, the official advent of winter. Everyone improvised costumes from station supplies and pulled pranks, a kind of Mardi Gras before the months of Arctic Lent. He wished he could believe this was just a sophomoric sundowner prank. The driver tapped Verneau's arm with an open notebook, which he recognized as Annie's day journal. He took it and read the entry. October 20th. We had a small farewell party last night. Plum cake and Cointreau with our tea. Lydia Tarakanova leaves today, if the submarine can get through to the Polinia. The Polinia's opening is drastically, uncharacteristically smaller every day as the light wanes, and we are gripped by full Arctic night. This year, it must be like finding a puddle in the middle of a desert. But they had found it. Dr. Tarakanova had been picked up and rotated out. Annie Bascom had reported her departure with characteristic glee. Thank God for small favors. She's gone. Hooray! Verneau closed Annie's notebook with a smile. Under any other circumstances, he'd be toasting her departure too. Das Vidanya, Lydia, Verneau thought. Good riddance. What a piece of work she was. Demanding, whiny, difficult. She'd been the colleague from hell for a whole year. A voice panted in his ear over the short-range channel. His driver was summoning him outside. A beeping tone sounded repeatedly. One of the rescuers was alerting the others with their emergency beacon. A voice reported sighting the Wannigan. Station Trudeau, 14 miles southeast, acknowledged the transmission and asked to be kept advised. Verneau's driver was already consulting his global positioning device and polyethylene chart. The beacon was 400 yards ahead, coming from the general direction of the nearby rocky outcropping they called Mackenzie's Mount. "Let's go," Verneau said, climbing up into the high cockpit of the polecat, which started up, swaying along on its wide chassis, the soft, oversized tires turning before Verneau had even clinched his safety harness. Merde. Fucking straps. Why did they even need them? The polecat's top cruising speed was only 18 miles an hour. The electrical motor was sparked by aluminum batteries, easy to start in the frigid conditions, and hydrogen-fueled to make it environmentally faultless, as the Royal Commission insisted. God, he longed for the surge of a combustion engine. A tracked gasoline-powered snowmobile half the size could accelerate 2 to 3 times faster. To hell with the effect on the terrain. He wanted to get to his people. In the Arctic, every minute of exposure was potentially fatal. "Hostie!" Verneau cursed. The swaying was making him nauseous. "This machine is a beach ball." "What?" The driver half-turned, his face invisible behind his helmet's visor. "Nothing. Go fast," said Verneau. "Allez, allez, schnell, damn it!" It was markedly darker and colder than when they'd arrived at the Polinia. Even the waxy red band along the horizon was gone. The digital readout in Verneau's helmet read 1:47 p.m. A medical unit's tracked catamaran, larger and faster, eased past the polecat like a yacht on a languid cruise. Medical staff, including the station's nurse practitioner and a number of researchers who volunteered as EMTs, were in one wing, their gear in the other, the two halves connected by spars which flexed as the catamaran skimmed over the ice. The winch, suspended in the middle, clanged against its frame like an alarm bell. 7 pairs of headlights advanced from the other direction, pincering in on the missing scientists. More high-chassised vehicles were approaching across the undulating ice field, lights swaying up and down. First-year ice was smooth and level, but this older pack ice was all hummocks. Verneau's polecat bounded over the rises, swaying side to side. The tunnels of light converged, the center growing brighter, the surrounding ice flashing blue and green in the combined intensity. The beams caught 3 figures, supine on the ice. "Kurat!" the driver cursed in Estonian, as their vehicle rode up a slight swell and plunged down the other side, sledding. He wrestled the yoke as they skidded sideways and brought the polecat to a stop alongside the larger catamaran. The trio was clearly visible now, the protruding brims of their helmets glistening like the beaks of felled birds. They seemed to be writhing, but Verneau realized it was only the effect of the quills fluttering in the mild wind. In fact, they were completely still. Verneau vaulted out and followed the scurrying medical personnel, who shouted to one another over the intercom channel in French and German. Sounds of their heavy breathing filled his headphones. 2 medics hunched over Junzo Ogata, the Japanese geophysicist. Annie Bascom lay 20 feet farther off, beside Minskov, both of their bodies oddly splayed, arching like circus contortionists, the Russian's legs practically touching the back of his helmet. The medics knelt down beside Ogata, Bascom, and Minskov, their lime sashes flashing in the headlights. Verneau and the others paced helplessly. A medic tossed down an insulated canister of heated oxygen and tore at the feathery outer skin of Ogata's suit, cutting through the slack humidifying layer and the tighter body stocking. The released heat and moisture vaporized instantly and froze in midair like confetti. He slapped the leads of a heart monitor against the patch of exposed, steaming chest, instantly gray with frost. The monitor flickered, flashing red numerals and barely wavy lines. Single digits. Minimal cardiac function. The medic intubated Ogata's airway. Hot aerosolized